All right, awesome. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's day like 5 of Gamescom or 6 or 4.
It's Friday right now.
Okay.
We got her on Monday,
Sure. Yeah.
but the show doesn't officially start, I think, until Tuesday's media day, and Wednesday is like the first visitor day.
It's a little fuzzy because we see people here every day.
Right.
Just the number of people is getting larger and larger
Yeah.
each time. So we're not sure because we don't directly work with media or directly work with the regular people that come in. So we're not sure exactly who these people are sometimes that do come in. So day 4.5.
Yeah, in case you're wondering
good
what all these
estimate.
people behind us are doing, basically we're here at Gamescom. It's literally the biggest gaming event on the planet. I don't know exactly how many people there are this year, but I heard that last year there were 365,000 over the course of I think a week. It's pretty ridiculous if you think about it. But regardless, we're going to be talking about co-op. Kevin, of course, you're the lead co-op designer
Sure.
at StarCraft 2, which is pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do, I've got a couple of questions that I prepared myself as well. And obviously, since I'm streaming this, I will also be taking questions from the chat. So if you guys have anything that you might be wondering about, feel free to ask Kevin. I think for the most part, let's first off get started about Tygus. So obviously, Tygus is the latest co-op commander.
Sure.
I've been playing him probably 24 games at this point. I'm really enjoying him. But I think for those of you that don't really know too much about him, if you could quickly introduce what he's all about.
Sure. So in traditional StarCraft, you build these huge armies of 100 or 200 units, but for the first time ever with Tychus, it's going to be a lot different. Instead of being able to build these huge armies, you build these or recruit these 5 very elite, very powerful outlaws that you micromanage and upgrade as they're on the map. That doesn't mean you still can't play those big army engagements with Tychus, because there are options like you can build turrets, or you can deploy turrets on the map, or you can mind control enemy units. So even though Tychus is a lot different, there's still possibilities for him to play similarly to some other commanders.
Yep. No, definitely. I did some mind controlling as well. You can definitely destroy some army. Actually, fun story. Yesterday we played on the stage behind us as well. Monk mind controlled a lot of units. I may have destroyed a lot of them.
Wow, yeah.
I don't know how many you saw me kill, but
Oh, you killed more than one?
I killed more than one on
Okay,
accident.
okay.
Yes.
I saw one, because Loko was being very fancy with the micro. And he
Dude,
was
I knew the camera was on me, right? I'm like, okay,
right.
let's show off some micro over
Okay.
here, and I killed a couple of colossi.
Yeah, so normally in co-op, I don't expect most people will do this because they're not individually targeting units.
Yeah.
But as soon as I mind controlled it, it died. I'm like, how did this happen? It was Loko killing, sending a wave of corruptors at a Colossus or something.
I know. I accidentally did that.
Not
Anyways,
the best ally.
So this is the first commander that you worked on from start to finish, right?
Yep.
So how does that design process work? So how do you get started making a commander? I'm really curious about the process because I have no idea.
All right, so first we have Tychus, and then we decide, hey, what's this commander going to be about? What is Tychus about in the lore? So he's about, you can write down, he's about the Odin. He's about, being, an angry guy. He, and then you also look at what his campaign experience is, because a lot of co-op is based around the campaign experiences of the characters.
Right.
And that's easy for Raynor, easy for Kerrigan, easy for Artanis, because they have their own campaigns. But with Tychus, he doesn't have his own campaign, but what he does have is, I think there's about 3 or 4 missions that include Tychus in it. A lot of them feature the Odin, but one of the most prominent ones is the Belly the Beast mission, which I know you're a fan of.
I really like that one.
You control Jim Raynor, you control Stedman, you control Swan, and of course Tychus, and you kind of fight through this dungeon.
Yeah, it's at the end of Wings of Liberty, for those of you who remember, when you invade Char.
Right.
You go underground.
So Tychus, in a way, is like Belly the Beast, the commander. And we thought that experience was very fun, and we thought that it would translate well to co-op. So that's how we came to the idea. But as far as the design process, how we eventually got there, we went through a lot of iterations with Tychus. We tried a lot of things. I can tell you about some of those things later, some of the things that may have failed, but eventually we got here.
Okay, so how long is the process? How long are we talking? From start to finish?
Okay.
It must take a while, right?
It heavily depends.
Right.
So for Tychus, we took probably a little longer than normal because, of course, it is my first commander. It's my first time taking over for David, and I'm an okay designer, but I'm no David Sum. He's been doing it for a while.
Fair enough.
But we have a design process, and then after we lock our design, we go into We have to write all the tooltips. Writing tooltips is actually, I think it's one of the most underrated time-consuming things that people don't really think about.
Like the things you hover over?
Yeah, the things you hover over. Like you have to get the wording absolutely correct.
Right.
Then we have a lot of art. We have like obviously the unit models, the building models, but I think one thing people don't think about is the icons. And a fun fact is that Tychus has like I think by far the most icons out of any commander so far.
Right, because of all of the upgrades,
all
of the
gear,
units,
right,
and like,
right.
yeah.
And then there's like voice acting, there's sound, there's a lot of departments have to like come together, work together to create this final product.
So you mentioned not on stream, but you mentioned there were like several iterations of the co-op commander every single day. So like, what do we have to think about? Like initially, I can imagine it's like big changes,
right?
And I guess over time they become less influential. But what are some of the things you messed around with that didn't quite make it to the final version of Tychus?
Right. So the first iteration of Tychus we actually worked on was he had this mechanic. It was kind of like Rage, and we called it Cold Heart. So if you're familiar with like World of Warcraft and
like Rage from WoW?
Yeah, Rage from WoW. So basically, every time he did damage or every time he took damage, he would get stronger in some way, or his abilities would get better in some way. And we kind of tried to not only put that on Tychus, but we tried to translate that to all of his units. So the longer they were in battle, they would improve in some way. Like for example, like the Marines would attack faster. The Marines would attack faster the longer they're in battle or the more damage they take. So like maybe a strategy would be to like stim them to like 1 health, and then like they would attack super fast.
Okay.
So
right.
You can still kind of see the remnants of that in the Herc Cannonball, because he has kind of like a rage type ability there. Right.
What's the ability?
Every time he attacks, he gains attack speed.
Oh, okay. Right.
Right.
Okay.
But the problem we found there was it was cool, but it just didn't feel like Tychus. Right? You don't think of Tychus as like the leader of a huge army. You think of him as like leading a band of outlaws. So that's when we've done research on like who Tychus is as a character before, but that's when like it really came together. We decided, hey, Tychus has to be like this outlaw that controls very few units.
Right.
And that was kind of the driving force behind the decisions for like the next few months. So after we came up with that, we went with a lot of iterations of how like a hero-based commander would go, and we took a lot of inspiration from other games such as World of Warcraft, Heroes of the Storm, a lot of MOBAs. Warcraft 3 was a big one, and like heist films was another one, like Ocean's 11, where you have like, you have to
band of outlaws.
Yeah, you have to pull a job, and you need someone who can like pick locks. You need someone who can like pickpocket. You need someone who like funds the operation. Maybe someone who does the paperwork.
That's awesome, actually. Yeah. So it's actually really cool to see all of the different, I guess, outlaws that he has all have a different job as well. Like I noticed some of them are really specialized, and some of them are pretty much good in every single mission. I mean, for example, what I've personally found, I mean, I've talked to you about this. Blaze is pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good on all missions, and I think he comes together and he works together really nicely together with Tychus himself right at the very beginning of the game. They can work together quite nicely. Are there like some other heroes that are specifically added just because they have to fulfill a certain role or a certain job, or they're good on a certain map? Or
right. So like how the outlaws were all added is actually very interesting, because they were all added for very different reasons. For example, one aspect of Tychus that we found weak in our initial designs was Tychus was not very good at killing high target objectives or high health enemy objectives, because it's hard to scale his army going into the late game. Like we do give him a lot of attack and weapon, armor, life upgrades, and there's a lot of gear that upgrades his damage. But we eventually found out that like most of his damage actually comes from his abilities. So we need some way to deal damage to structures. So that's where we came up with the idea of Crooked Sam, who's the Reaper. He throws these demolition grenades on a lot of structures. And as you can see, I think we tried it on the trains mission, Oblivion Express. He did very well there. So that was an example of an outlaw where we had a clear idea of what we wanted the outlaw to do and designed around that. But most of the other outlaws were designed for very other specific reasons. So a fun fact about Tychus is originally when we came to the next step after we figured out, okay, we want to do heroic units, is how do we design, like, what's the starting point for designing these
Right.
heroic units?
So he's like who's like the first one?
Right, so what we actually did was we looked at World of Warcraft, we looked at the classes.
Right.
And originally, the Outlaws were all based off of one of the World of Warcraft classes.
You had a shaman class in WoW, or like a shaman outlaw.
So the funny thing is, you would expect the Marauder, Rattlesnake, he'd be the shaman class because he throws down like a ward. But
oh yeah, he actually does, I guess.
but,
Right.
So the funny
Like a
thing is, like, originally that was the Paladin class we were aiming towards.
How so?
He had a whole different set of abilities.
Oh, okay.
So it was completely different, and his abilities change over time, and he no longer resembles a paladin at all. But
Right, okay.
can you see like some examples of outlaws that directly relate to like WoW classes, for example, off the top of your head?
Yeah, I'm like trying to remember all of the names. Well, I guess that's a good one actually. I mean, I've played pretty much all classes in WoW, and I would probably be able to find the parallel if you would point it out right now, but I don't think I can notice it right at the top of my head.
So like what I said before, the Herc is based around like rage and like going into combat. So he's kind of a mixture of, he can take damage and he can deal it back, sort of like a warrior. And then another one is the Nux, the Spectre. He casts AoE abilities and he kind of has Brilliance Aura, so a lot like a mage. So
that's actually really cool.
That's where I'll start off, but like not all the outlaws were designed around that, but
it's like the basis.
Yeah, the basis. Actually, the one outlaw that I'll tell you was scrapped. Was we originally, instead of Blaze, we had a Hellion / Hellbat, and it was based off of a Druid.
Wait, obviously you can shift.
You can shape-shift.
Yeah, okay.
Right. We thought that was cool, and so what it basically did was, in Hellion form, it healed your guys. Its flame attack healed, and then in Hellbat form, it dealt damage. So he's
right. Okay. No. Okay. I see where you're going from there.
There are a lot of reasons we scrapped that, though.
I mean, that's pretty difficult to manage as well, right? Like to balance as well. Like
right. It was weird. It was like, because you're seeing these blue flames like healing your guys, and you're like you're kind of confused about what's happening. And the other thing is, we can talk about like the primary abilities as well. Originally, our outlaws had some of them had like 3 abilities, active abilities. Some of them had 0, because we wanted the thought process behind that was that we wanted like more skilled players or people who thought they could handle a lot of micromanagement to be able to use that very well, and people who didn't maybe just use like a character with lots of passives. Right. But we found that was very difficult to manage for anyone. Yeah. Especially because of you have to tab through all the abilities. So which is why we came up with the fact that you can select all their abilities and use all their abilities from a single command card. Yeah. And because of that, actually, the Hellbat Hellion outlaw, he had too many active abilities, so we had to kind of scrap that idea. We couldn't let him like transform. Right.
Yeah. So right now they all have 1 activated ability. Yeah. I can imagine that maybe some of them shifted around then as well, so you kind of got away from the classes.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that I didn't realize initially is that it was actually, I guess he's technically not a healer, right? But a Marauder has this ability to throw the totem, I guess, on the ground, or like a healing ward on the ground to heal everyone. But I didn't realize how much damage he dealt. He still deals a lot of damage.
Right.
And he's still definitely a Marauder, but he has this healing thing to it, so it's a little bit confusing. But I can see the shift of the abilities. I guess.
Yeah. You definitely you need some form of healing for this kind of commander. But we wanted multiple avenues that you could go towards, because a lot of about Tychus is the decision making behind, like there's a lot of decision making with Tychus. So you could either get a medic, you could either go for the full healing route. She has a lot of healing abilities, or you could go for the Marauder, which his healing abilities are probably a little weaker, but he also can deal a lot of damage as well. Or
the Medivacs.
Yeah, Medivac. You can just use mass Medivacs. That's a viable strategy as well.
So I didn't realize this until a couple days ago, but you mentioned it. That there's Medivacs to basically transport your units, kind of similar to how Nova functions. You can just pick up the units and then drop them off elsewhere. One of the things I didn't realize is that apparently they also healed you up. They put you in cloak for a couple seconds as well. So I haven't really tried this out too much yet, but I think it might be possible to just go 5 damage dealers, 3 Medivacs real quick, and if you have the mastery point set up to them, right, to reduce the cooldown, you can probably, I think you can use it like every 15 seconds or so. And I don't know, is it like a percentage-based heal or is it flat heal?
It is a percentage-based heal, I believe.
Okay, so it's actually pretty significant. So you can probably pick them up every once in a while, and they're cloaked initially too.
Yeah, you should try that strategy.
Yeah, I should try
to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm actually curious as well to figure out what is going on. Anyway, I think that's pretty much everything there is regarding Tigers, unless you have any funny stories or any other heroes that get scrapped or any other bits and pieces that didn't make it to the final product. There's probably a lot, but
there's a lot of things that did not make it. We tried a lot of different outlaw ideas. I'm sure chat will have questions about Tigers later on. So
all right, so yeah, one of the things I noticed is that since you joined the dev team, I think about a year ago right now, there's been a ton of changes to like all of the existing commanders as well. Is that one of the things you guys are actively looking at continuously, or because I noticed personally that there's a lot of quality of life changes just in general. There's a lot less spellcasters or like more more straightforward things where you don't have to necessarily have a ton of skill to execute it.
Sure.
Is that one of the things you're always actively looking at, or?
Right. So yeah, that's definitely something we've been focusing on a lot in the last few months. Kind of reworking the commanders that we do have, and we feel like there's been 14 commanders so far. We released a lot of content, but we kind of want to take a look back at it and make it even better.
Right.
It's going to be a continuous process. It's going to be it's going to take a while, I think. Like we come out with these changes every few months, and we get a lot of feedback from our community, what works and what isn't, and we're gonna take that. We might not necessarily be able to respond to it immediately, but we'll get to it eventually.
Right.
So the design process behind, or the thinking behind these reworks is, the primary goal is to have each commander have a diversity of builds. So each time you queue into a game, you don't feel like, okay, I'm Vorazin, I have to go Dark Templar and Corsairs. That's definitely the best strategy. And that doesn't mean we want a different strategy.
But there's always going to be an optimal strategy.
There's always going to be an optimal strategy.
There's always going to be guys like me who just try to, I'll play Dark Templar.
Sure.
I think it's probably the way to go.
Sure. But like, we want all the strategies to have like somewhat similar power, maybe not like exact same, but like within the realm of similar power. We also want the different strategies to feel different. So even though like you're not going for the best strategy, you may go for a strategy that is fun. Like, for example, we're buffing Vorazin's Blink in the next, or we're buffing Vorazin's Stalkers in the next
I
patch.
saw the that was like announced just very recently.
Right. So I'm not sure like if that will be the best strategy, but at least it will offer a different avenue for a different way for players to play. And not only that, like maybe on some mutations or on some maps or against some compositions or with some ally, Dark Templar and Corsairs is not the absolute best strategy. Maybe you have, if in some specific scenario, you want a different unit composition, and I think that is a good goal to maintain.
Yeah. I remember just playing Mass Void Ray pretty much all the time, and I'm like,
Mass Void Ray's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but then I found out, hey, wait a second, like Dark Templar Corsair may actually be. Started watching some Brute War, and it's pretty similar to how a lot of the Brute War strategies are played. It's pretty cool.
But you also said quality of life, and I think we are trying a lot of things that. A lot of things in co-op, like it's still StarCraft, so it's gonna be a little. It's gonna be a little.
I mean, it's gonna be hard.
Right.
Some of the sometimes I'm trying to come up with a good example right now. I think it was Stukov in particular who had like a lot of activated abilities and a lot of micro. I'll be honest, I mostly play as Infested Terran strategy, but I didn't really try as mech very much. But I know there's like a lot of changes that are simply just meant to just make it maybe not necessarily easier, but like less punishing when you don't execute it properly.
Right. Yeah, Stukov is actually one that we're eventually going to get to.
Okay.
We've done a lot of Stukov changes in the past, but I think we're looking to a slightly bigger one in the future as well.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, because pretty much everyone I see play him, like, I know he's got great units, but everyone's just, okay, you know what, I'm just going to make Infested Terrans. And it's really satisfying to just play Infested Terrans, so it's not, it's not to blame anyone. I guess if everyone is having fun, it's fine. But
yeah, it is the fantasy of Stukov, right?
Yeah.
Like mass civilians, mass Infested Terrans.
Right. All right. So one thing that I talked to David some about a year ago, and that's personally something I would be really interested in as well, is the competitive co-op. So with leaderboards and whatnot, we haven't really heard anything about this, I don't think.
Right.
In recent times, do you have anything to talk about?
Sure. Leaderboards is still something we're actively working on. We're running into some challenges regarding leaderboards. I can tell you some of them. One is. The design process, like how do we make it fair for everyone? How do we make sure the points scale well with every mission, with every commander?
Right.
But perhaps the more challenging issue we're running into is cheating. So how do we ensure that like the leaderboards are fair, right? And that's that's like an issue that you can take from multiple approaches. Like there's an engineering side to it. There is like a decision side to it. Like how do you even like deal with that kind of stuff? Right?
So can you give us like an example on what would be like? Completing the mission fastest, or how would we look at that?
Yeah, I think completing a mission fast is definitely one metric you could go. Maybe like how fast you can finish the bonus objective as well while completing the mission. Maybe you get extra points for that.
Right.
Maybe you have the least damage possible on things such as the temple, or
right.
or what's it called? Or the science vessels on the everything you escort basically.
Right.
In missions, or maybe you kill the trains the fastest. There's a lot of things you could do there.
So what things would you be worried about as far as like cheating goes? Because how would players, like, how can you imagine people would cheat? I mean, I'm sure people would figure it out. I'm trying to think of that right now. What would be like an example of what?
Well, we've definitely had cheating in the past, where some players would like summon a billion Hyperions on the map as soon as the game started.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. I remember those. Like basically like slightly bugged abilities.
Right.
You know.
Or there's like more devious ways that I don't particularly want to talk about.
Okay. Let's not do that. But fair enough. I see. All right. So that's still something that at the very least is being worked on. Cool. So I'm glad to hear that there might be a competitive mode as well as far as that goes. I personally I love playing co-op, and I do all of the missions, and I complete them quite easily. Are there any plans to maybe like add an additional difficulty level to it, or is that mostly going to be meant like done with mutators, or are you guys planning on adding any additional mutators or changing them up again, or?
So that's something we're actively talking about. How do we make co-op more challenging for the players who have played it for so long? They've already hit level 90. They've already gotten very high levels of ascension. How do we make it continuously more fun for them? And in the past, we've had things like mutators, weekly mutations, custom mutations. But I think we can do a little better. We can probably add more features, but I don't think it would be like a lot of people are requesting a Bruto plus difficulty, right?
Right.
I don't think like adding more units or maybe even increasing the HP or damage output of the units is maybe the right way to go, because co-op abilities are pretty strong, and even if you scale abilities by a little bit, or even if you scale like the enemy units by some percentage, like I think co-op commanders will still be able to deal with that pretty efficiently, because like things do like thousands of damage, and like call downs you can just have like solar bombardment or like
solar bombardment. I guess Tygus is big red button.
Yeah, big red button's pretty
kills
good.
pretty much everything.
Best nuke ever in the game.
It's pretty quick as well.
So we're looking at ways and how which can increase difficulty without doing that, like just increasing how good Amon's forces are.
All right. So as far as like the mutators go, I noticed at some point like a lot of the old ones were being repeated.
Sure.
I don't know if that's still currently going on right now, but regardless, are there any plans to like refresh some of those and make new ones?
Yeah, we've actually just released new ones in 4.5, I believe.
Oh, okay,
which
cool.
released 2 or 3
there have been new
weeks
ones
ago.
already?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sick.
Yeah,
oh,
2 or 3 weeks ago we started playing. Yeah, new mutations.
Oh, I noticed I have my notifications on, but thank you very much, Mr. Nuclear, for the support there as well. Okay, that's awesome.
If you go up to co-op, new mutation right here.
Okay, cool.
Part and parcel.
Oh, sick. That's awesome.
All right, so they played this, right?
I think I have played it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And I may have not even noticed that they were the new ones. I noticed a little bit of text explaining. I always liked that little bit of text that was there in the past explaining what's going on. It seems to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, like with the UI changes, we don't have that anymore.
And it didn't really add anything.
I mean, I can make something up for you right
here. Sure, you can like message me in the morning. Sure, it's like, Amon is attacking the planet.
I'll narrate it too. I'll send you an audio recording.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'll be up for that. All right. So now that Tygus is back, right? You know that this one was coming as well, and I personally so every single commander leading up to Tygus has been one that's alive pre-Legacy of the Void epilogue, right? So before the StarCraft 2 epilogue, that's why we have like the regular Queen of Blades, and everything else is pretty normal as well. However, Tygus, spoiler alert, he didn't make it out of Wings of Liberty. He didn't make it very far.
Whoa.
I know. I'm sorry. I mean, if you wouldn't know about that, I would be very surprised. So does that mean he like leads the way to other potential like dead commanders?
Well, we've never really said that like we can't have dead commanders at all.
Okay.
And there's still like, even disregarding Tychus, there have been issues with canon if you consider co-op extremely canon,
like
which we don't.
Shakura's missions and stuff.
Right, like yeah, Shakura's missions. Another one that's commonly cited is where is Nova's Griffin coming from? Because she's getting it. She gets it in Nova Covert Ops, and that's canon. And she
Wow.
gets that after the events of Amon's defeat.
Okay, good point. I didn't actually call that
Spoiler
one.
alert, by the way, Amon's defeated at the end.
Oh no, no way! It's been only like 5 years at this
Right.
point.
But yeah, so Tychus is our first commander that's canonically not alive anymore. But we don't see it as like it opens up the way for dead commanders. We see it as that door has always been open, and we're just
Right.
first exploring it for the first time here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the alive characters are already covered as well.
Right.
There's only so many you can choose
Yeah,
from.
like our decision-making process behind like which characters we pick, a lot comes from like who are the fans demanding, who do they want, and
All right.
a
So,
very commonly
know.
demanded character was Tychus. So
yeah,
now
I mean,
you-
Tychus is one of my personal favorite characters as well. I mean, he's not the nicest guy, but
Yeah.
he's. So speaking of favorite characters,
sure.
no, I would be, I heard a lot of great suggestions. We talked about this on the stream for a little bit. A lot of people mentioned characters like, for example, Overmind, like Samir Duran, like,
Sure.
what's his name, Mr. Dugal
Mr. Dugal.
from the UED. I would be very interested in
Right.
in seeing him. I think that would be really cool.
Right, a lot of Brood War characters. I know I was
Yeah,
talking to
yeah,
Alex
yeah.
007 earlier. He was suggesting Aldaris, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard that name in like years.
Donnie Vermillion, though.
Donnie Vermillion,
We
okay.
still have Donnie Vermillion.
Sure.
I don't know how it would work out.
We could have Stedman, right?
I would love a Stepman commander.
Right.
Like Donnie Vermillion and Stepman are probably my favorite Wings of Liberty commanders, or like characters outside of like
Right.
maybe the main ones, but they
Alright.
are really cool.
Okay, you can only have one commander. Who would it be? He doesn't have to be dead. Who do you want the next commander to be?
I actually think a UED commander
Okay.
like Dugal. I
Dugal.
guess Stukov is already in, so it
But
doesn't really make
Dugal's
sense.
dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Wow.
I don't think we ever actually see him die, but I guess the entire fleet is destroyed, so
Right,
it's
right.
it's assumed that
They were
he-
never heard from again.
Yeah, they were never heard from again.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
I think a UED commander would be really cool. So the United Earth Directorate. Personally, when I did a playthrough of StarCraft 1 Remastered when
Yeah.
they first released Remastered, and I'd never played the campaign before, and I never knew the story about UED at all. I didn't even know that was really part of the storyline. It wasn't so much part, I guess, of StarCraft 2. I think it would be cool to see how they played out, although.
You could have like Earth units, like you could have tanks that don't transform into siege tanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
Like,
regular tanks that go boop,
it's
boop,
very
boop, boop.
yeah, it's very difficult to do. I don't know, like, but I guess it's also technically, at least somewhat in the future, right? So there would be, but it'd be a completely different play of Terran, I suppose.
Right, right. Yeah, we could come up with something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. A Zeratul commander. I see someone say Zeratul right now.
Right.
Loco Dugal is dead. Spoilers, thanks. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, guys.
there's a lot of spoilers. You should put in your chat
Yeah,
title,
yeah.
spoilers
I'm
incoming.
sorry, guys. If you haven't played, I mean, if you're spoiled from a game from 1999, I think, or
Yeah, I'm seeing Tosh, Zeratul.
Tosh will be sick as well. Tassadar,
Tassadar, yeah, Tassadar would be really cool.
a Loco commander. I don't know about that one.
What would a Loco commander do?
Probably not so very much. I mean, just one
upload
big
YouTube
hero.
videos, yeah?
Yeah.
Uh,
Upload videos,
Yeah.
live stream. Yeah. I'll be together with Donnie Vermillion. As
Yeah.
long as there's no Terry, I'll be fine. Yeah. Zurvan commander. Zurvan would be sick too. Zurvan, the big evil looking.
guy.
Yeah, exactly. You have to feed him carcasses.
Yeah.
What was he? Primal Zerk. That's the
Oh.
name. That's the name I was talking about.
Manx,
Selendis,
Selendis.
Mengsk.
Okay.
There's so many cool ones.
I'm getting
Like,
some ideas now.
yeah, no. I'm sure you've considered all of these. I'm sure you've got a list of characters.
These are
that
new
you're like,
names for me.
yeah, no.
I'm going to look them up as soon as I get off the stream.
You're like, Selendis, who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that again? Yeah, so the last question that I personally had, how popular is co-op compared to multiplayer? Because at some point I remember hearing that, I don't know if you have the numbers of this or if you can even talk about it, so if not, no problem. But I remember hearing that co-op was more popular than multiplayer and like arcade combined. Is that still the case? Do you happen to know if that is still the case?
I think it really depends on exactly what metrics you use. Like, the number of players that are playing, like the total number of games at any given time that are played. I'll just say that co-op is very popular.
Donation
Okay.
confirmed.
Oh snap!
Lenny is commander.
A Lenny commander.
Oh, Lenny. What's a Lenny commander?
Lenny is the cardboard zergling. You see the pink zergling right
is
there?
that his like official
No.
name? Oh,
That's what my stream started calling him.
Okay.
He's sort of become the stream mascot.
Do you have one of those?
I have 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
They're
a
both
boy
called
and a
Lenny.
girl?
Nobody's supposed to know that. I've mixed and matched several times. Don't tell anyone.
Okay, but is it a boy and a girl, or are they?
No, they're both called Lenny.
I don't know.
I don't know what gender they are. I
Okay,
have no
okay.
clue.
Yeah.
But it's just the cardboard zergling. That's Lenny right there.
Aw.
See?
I like the card buzzer.
Yeah. Once upon a time, one of them was called Jenny, but we forgot about that.
Oh.
I think that's pretty much all of the questions that I had. If anyone in the chat that is currently watching has anything in particular you would like to know about. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be asking, what's the release date? Can you tell us anything about that?
New subscriber detected.
Soon TM. Soon TM. All right,
Yeah.
good. So we got that one out of the way.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later. There you go. Are there any plans to make armor upgrades worth getting besides for Raynor, Dahaka, and Han and Horner? So you're assuming
Okay.
armor upgrades are not worth it on other commanders?
Well, we've actually done some rework around armor and shield upgrades. I think about like back in February, we reduced the cost overall of all the armor and all the armor upgrades in the game.
Okay.
I think we've, I think they're way more worth it now. Maybe you still want to get a lot of them before the attack upgrades. But yeah, we can take a look at that. I think another commander that armor is pretty good for is Kerrigan, because the upgrades are just so cheap if you have the mastery in that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them are. Usually I just get them anyway. 'Cause
Yeah.
you usually have the resource to just sort of get them, and it seems worthwhile.
Right. Yeah, but I definitely understand where he's coming from. Like, unlike in multiplayer, where a lot of damage is coming from like Marines or Zerglings, in co-op, a lot of the damage is coming from like Psystorm or like
Right.
those
There's a
hybrid-
lot of like area of effects. spells
area
and
effect
stuff,
or
yeah.
like just single target spells.
You just
even
ignore
from
armor
hybrids,
as well,
yeah.
so it's
They
like
ignore
really
armor,
powerful. Yeah. Vader asks, is Tychus the last commander? Or I guess another question is, how many commanders do you guys work on at one given
We
time?
work on more than one commander at a given time.
Well, there's your answer, Vader. How do you decide on upgrade / nerfs? I think we already went over that. You mentioned you were going for a lot of it.
Sure.
Okay, that's a good question by Shadowblaze. To go back to Tychus, what does he spend all of his resources on? Just the outlaws and the upgrades?
Right. So there's outlaws, there are upgrades, there are medevac platforms, there are gear. Those are, I guess you can consider those upgrades.
He goes up
as
to
well.
5.5
He goes
as well,
up
which
to
is
5.5.
really expensive.
Right. So one of the challenges we ran into when designing Tychus is how does he scale? Because with every other commander, you keep adding units to your army. And with Noah, for example, maybe you're maxed out, so you can spend it on like airstrikes.
Right.
With Tychus, instead of adding units, the way you get better is you upgrade your gear, and that's part. You upgrade your attack, you upgrade your armor and life, and that's part of why we can scale up to 5 upgrades instead of 3. You can also build turrets. There's a lot of options, but the way in which we design Tychus is that traditionally with most co-op commanders, you max out and you get your like maximum power between the 15 and 30 minute mark. With Tychus, it's going to be similar. I think like if you fast expand right away, you can probably get all his gear and all his upgrades by about the 26, 20.
Basically, by the end of the game, you get everything.
By the end of the game, you get everything. So
Yeah,
it's
it scales
basically
quite
designed
nicely.
to scale similarly to other commanders.
Is the next commander Protoss or Zerg? Do you guys try and make them in order, or is it just sort of just whatever you want to work on? Right now we had Terran. I guess previously we had Han and Horner. They were also technically Terran. So I guess it's not necessarily in order.
Right. I would say it's something we consider, but it's not like the main driving force.
Right.
Like right now, I think we do have an even mix of like 5 for each race right now.
All right.
But that's like somewhat on purpose, but somewhat like.
Yeah, it's not the main priority. And obviously you've got the guys like Stukov. I mean, they're.
Right. Yeah, they're.
I mean, you can consider a lot of them to be somewhat their main race, but it's all very different.
I think like Stukov is actually part Protoss. According to the lore.
Is he part Protoss? According
He's not
to the lore?
actually part Protoss, but there is some Protoss technology that was like used to revive him. I'm not the best lore guy.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't he revived at a Terran base? I mean, okay, fair enough, guys. We're getting into
I'm not
the
gonna.
future
I'm not
story.
gonna. I'm not gonna like go down this road
Just
too
planning
much.
down the seeds, and you'll see
Yeah,
where
so
it
I'm gonna
goes.
get a call soon.
That's actually a pretty interesting one. Ravensdark asks, when you are so deep in the process of creating actual content, can you still look at it at a distance like a normal external gamer? So can you like look at it objectively? Because I guess when you've played it so much,
Right.
it's hard to imagine a commander or any content
Yeah.
as a new player.
Right.
Is that an issue you run into at all?
Definitely. I think that's like something not only that I run into, but like any game designer runs into. And one way we deal with that is we keep introducing the commanders to new people within Blizzard.
Okay.
So we keep trying to get fresh eyes on the commander, and like we get a lot of insights about that mostly regarding like is this fun? Is this easy to play? Is this intuitive? And it's also like a great experience like watching you and Winter play.
Right.
Because like you guys are like the first external people to ever play it actually.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, right?
Yeah.
You're probably like
We found stuff that was really strong right
Yeah.
from the get-go. It took us like 2 minutes.
yeah. You guys are probably like the two players who are the best at co-op at Tychus actually out of
Whoa.
anyone in the world outside of
Well, I
Blizzard.
know you're really good.
Outside of Blizzard.
Okay, outside of Blizzard. Yeah, well, I guess we're also the only... Well, there's people here that have come.
Yeah. I think you guys played before, right? You got an early look at it?
Like on Tigers? I
Right.
never played them until I actually arrived
Oh,
here.
okay.
No, certainly not. I would definitely be interested.
Oh, so you didn't play them on like day one on Monday when no one was here?
Oh, well, I logged in just to check if
okay.
everything was working, but I didn't really want to play them. So I basically wanted to do my very first game just to be the YouTube one, and
Sure,
that's the one that I ended up uploading. I play like a total noob. I basically just picked whatever commander looked pretty, and it actually worked really well.
Nice.
Just pick a mix and match of all of them. There are a lot of questions, guys. I'm trying to see if we have some really good ones as well. Any more Rock the Cabinet constants about co-ops? Obviously, some of the co-op maps that were added were originally from Rock the Cabinet, basically a Blizzard event that,
Right.
you know, I believe the reward was, I believe there were like cash prizes for like
There were cash
creating
prizes,
the best commander, or the best map runner.
Right. I believe the winner also won a trip to BlizzCon. as
Oh
well.
yeah, it's cool stuff. Are
Yeah.
there any plans for that?
Well, we've had Part and Parcel and Cradle of Death coming from that contest actually, so I think it would be very successful. I don't have anything to announce at the moment about upcoming Rock the Cabinet contest though. But
All right.
question.
Are you guys still looking at the ones that were submitted? And
Yeah,
yeah?
there's still a lot of them.
There's a lot of cool
There's
ideas.
a lot
I
of
actually
them.
ended up playing a lot of them as
Do you
well.
have any
They're-
favorites?
I actually think the most recent map, Cradle of Death. Yeah, I actually really like that
Yeah.
one. That was fun.
Yeah. Funny thing is like before I joined the company, I actually helped test that map.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you unfamiliar, Monk did a ton of StarCraft work before working at Blizzard, which is pretty awesome. Do we get an Overmind announcer? I missed the dark, beautiful voice.
These are really great questions.
Yeah. I guess that's not necessarily a... I would love an Overmind announcer as well. I always run the Abathur one. It's kind of similar. in a
Oh
way,
yeah,
but
I see what you mean.
And the Root Commander. So if you guys have any questions, by the way, feel free to submit them. I'm just... you don't have to like repost them 4 times. I'm trying to just scroll through it. Yeah, so there's going to definitely be future ones rework as well. Will we ever get co-op maps that recreate historical events or locations? Do you guys take that into account, like historic battles? Or just StarCraft battles?
Well,
I've never even thought about that.
well, co-op does recreate historic battles in the StarCraft universe.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. We have the Second War and the... let's see. Will we ever get co-op map? Well, I mean, guys don't have to copy paste them all too often.
New subscriber detected.
Thank you, Combat Penguin. Are the Outlaws heroic units? If yes, are they permanently affected by Black Death even after they respawn? I can answer this question, but I'm sure you...
Actually, I don't know. Well, so they're definitely heroic units.
Yeah.
They don't get stunned, or they do get stunned, but they have resistance to stun and a lot of other abilities. And I think we actually reworked chokers on Dead of Night so that Tychus wouldn't be completely screwed.
Oh, okay.
Because like with other commanders, like you have a lot of units that you like with Nova, for example, you can probably summon a few Marines behind it. And if you get choked by chokers, you can just use Marines to kill it. But with Tychus, it's like, oh,
It gets
I'm
a little,
choked.
it's like, okay, I have no damage output anymore
I
for 30
believe-
seconds.
yeah. I believe the change that we did was they can only choke one at a time, one outlaw at a time, or one heroic unit at
Okay.
a time. So you need to have 2 heroic units and use the other heroic unit to.
Right. So if there's only one, I guess.
Right.
Well, there you go, guys. Just
But
split up
this,
against.
This is a
several
long time ago.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Maybe it's accidentally not even anymore.
Sure.
English is hard. I actually played a set of random mutators
Sure.
yesterday with Winter, and we found out that in general, playing with or against Black Death on the
not
Tigers
fun?
is not, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, he takes damage continuously until he dies.
Right.
While they will respawn and they don't have the effect anymore. Or I guess you have to buy them back. You have to buy them some drinks in the bar,
Buy 'em some drinks.
and they will come back. But it's definitely a little difficult to have your 5 commanders continuously die. What do you think of the idea of a custom mutator 1 player can be aim on and select the units, objectives, difficulty, and the 2 co-op people? So basically what he's asking, are there any ideas for not necessarily 2-player co-op, but say 3-player co-op, or maybe 1 player gets to play Amon?
Oh, okay. 1 player gets to play Amon. No, I've honestly never thought about that.
Oh, there you go.
I have heard that idea,
Mhm.
but I haven't really thought about it seriously in the context of co-op.
Right.
I will say that a lot of Amon's abilities are probably I guess there's
be
a lot of
cool,
design.
actually.
Yeah, there's be a lot of design and thinking into how exactly how that would work. Because if you were the Amon player, you could just send all your forces at the beginning of the game and you
Yeah.
just win. Another thing,
So just go hybrids.
Yeah.
Go in.
another thing is currently Amon isn't designed to be played, so there'd be a lot of tooltip and artwork involved with a lot of the.
I can't even
abilities
imagine
there.
what Amon looks like on the backhand. He just spawns a lot of units.
He has a lot of abilities.
Yeah. I guess he does, yeah. That would be cool. I guess you guys are always adding just cool stuff. That's basically what you're trying to do, right? Did you think about a versus co-op mode? So this is obviously something that we had back in the day on April Fools.
Right.
It was actually really fun. I found out very quickly. I believe it was Rainer who was utterly broken in that one, because you can just drop units in your opponent's middle line.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for any player versus player co-op like we have seen?
Right. So yeah, funny thing about Rainer, people are really like that mode I've discovered.
It's really fun.
People are theory crafting about it all the time, and people are theory crafting now that it's no longer Rainer that's dominant. It's a triangle of counters. It's like Rainer beats Karax, and Karax beats Dahaka, and Dahaka beats Rainer. But whatever. So,
Right.
But also I've also heard from Alex 007 that it's very popular in the Russian community.
Oh, okay.
They
I've only played it the day that it was available on
Right.
the live servers, and
Yeah.
everyone played it. But
That's definitely something we've very seriously considered in the
I guess
past.
Karax is pretty sick as
Yeah,
well.
Karax
But that's
is-
still
or
something
Girl
that's
Strike.
being considered right now, or
Oh yeah. It's I would say it's always it's in the back of our minds.
Mhm.
There are challenges with balance, and there's a lot of balance issues with this.
Yeah.
But maybe the mode doesn't have to be super balanced. Yeah. But what I've discovered just recently here at Gamescom is a lot of people are asking for it. It's a very popular mode.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I personally would love to see it as well. I see it pop up every once in a while. I guess you don't necessarily have to have it balanced either, right?
Yeah.
It's just fun to mess around with, even
But-
if it's just a custom game.
Right.
Right.
But people are going to be like, this isn't balanced. You have to balance
Right.
this commander.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You're always gonna you're always gonna be in trouble there. I would
New
personally love to see that
subscriber
as well.
detected.
Thank you guys for all the subs. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And a Dune commander, a Rohana commander. Can you control the spear of a Dune commander?
Oh, okay.
It's pretty cool. Overmind commander, a hybrid commander. A lot of great suggestions, guys. Is the StarCraft universe in our universe? I think the answer to that would technically always be yes with current scientific understanding, but I mean,
I'm not actually sure when the StarCraft universe occurs, but it occurs in the future. So
right.
I can tell you definitively in maybe a few hundred years from now or 1,000 years from now.
So in the universe, considering infinity, it's
Yeah.
probably it's probably out there already, guys. Tigers lives in an alternate StarCraft universe. Anyway, will Tosh become a commander? I mean, obviously you can't just you can't just answer hey, will this guy be a commander? Yes or no? Todd got a quick question. When is Warcraft 4
okay.
going out?
Take tried to pull this one on me on the stage yesterday.
Yeah. All right, I think that's pretty much all of the questions that pretty much everyone had. It's 2,508 in Legacy of the Void.
Ah.
All right, so wait, StarCraft 1 starts in 2,500? Well, there we go. That's awesome.
Well, 500 years.
Anyways, I think that's pretty much all of the questions. If anyone has any follow-up questions, can they reach you anywhere? Any places? I know you're very active on the forums.
I
see
am.
you post there pretty much more than anyone, I think.
Sure.
Every time I check, there's like, Monk is the last post. I'm like, all right.
Well, that's mostly because like I have special powers and my posts are at the top, so.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, so you probably see me quite often. I have more visibility, but you can post on the Battle.net forums, or I pretty much read all the co-op forums and all the co-op discords or whatever, so pretty up to date on everything, and I'll try to respond to everything in my community updates.
Right. Yeah. So thank you very much for hanging out here today on the stream and answering all these questions. I think overall people are really excited for it. I've been playing a bunch of Tigers. I think most people are excited to give it a try as well. I gotta say, like personally, I'm a big fan of like, in particular, all of the commanders in Stukov. I think they're all very unique and really well designed.
They're very different.
So
Yeah.
they're all very different. Like I wouldn't even know how to get started with making a commander because they're all so very different. But
Right.
thank you for explaining it all to us.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. It's been good.
Wait.
There we
and
go.
cut YouTube.
I cut the YouTube video, guys.
Okay. Well.
Is there a Kerrigan rework? Now, guys, the questions now are